church, not fame, they're flipping the script, rewriting the game.
So in 2026, one clip sentence can cost you your reputation overnight.
And people still think free speech means no consequences.
I got no sound over here. Do you hear my sound?
I hear you. You can't hear me?
Not on my end.
You know what you got to do, right? Hop in and hop out. Technical difficulty, folks. So, while we're waiting, because this is all live today. Today, this is a live, because we got a very special guest, and we're going to get into that. So if it doesn't, and if you run a brand online, right, and you've already in a legal battlefield, whether you admit it or not. So today we're putting the right questions on the table before you say anything wrong publicly, all right? Because what really gets edited, the law has to catch up, or you get steamrolled. So, quick disclaimer, we're not attorneys at law. No, I don't even play one on TV. But we did bring one up on stage today. We have a special guest, who happens to be a lawyer that specializes in defamation. So, Gia, are you ready to introduce our guest?
Let's do it. I'm ready. So today we have a special guest. I'm super, excited to be introducing Rais Mohammed Esquire. And he is an amazing attorney that handles entertainment law, defamation, and we're going to be getting into the real root of what you can do if you have a brand online and you want to know where we're headed for 2026 and the years to come. Welcome. What's up, Rais?
Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
So,
how you doing, Rais?
I'm fantastic.
Rais.
Rais. You said it.
Rais.
It's like a roll of the tongue. Rais.
Rais. Yeah, you got it.
So for the people that are just, introducing and hearing of you, tell them a little bit about like what you do. I know you work with a lot of well-known influencers, even celebrities. I fell across you because you work with one of the fellow teammates in First Form, who is also very well-known online. And so I was like, oh, wow. And I start listening to it and I'm like, I'm going through these same issues. And that's why we connected, right? So tell the ones that are just now like hearing of you a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So my firm, we're based in Scottsdale, Arizona. We handle cases nationally. We deal primarily with online defamation and online reputation management issues. So that includes somebody posting something false about you, something that may be truthful, but you have to do damage control, but also defending people who may be getting sued for defamation incorrectly, right, or improperly over something that they actually said that was true or that was opinion or factual. And then we have like a whole slew of things that we do with creators, protecting their brand, IP protection, defending their brand online. And then, of course, since we have so many entrepreneurs, we do a lot of the standard things we do for online entrepreneurs: licensing, protecting their companies, getting their companies set up, M&A stuff, those kind of things.
Very cool. So what legally counts as defamation today? With most of the statements you see, like at least with me, they'll take my pictures, they'll put it on sites that I'm not associated with. They'll make up stories about what I've done in the past, which are completely, not factual. And then they'll take certain things of mine, and they'll like clip it up. Oh, you see this with other content creators, right? They'll take their videos, they'll clip them up, they'll put them together out of context. Does that constitute as defamation? All the things I've mentioned?
It definitely can, right? So the sort of pinnacle of defamation, the sharpest point of it is falsity. So it's a false statement that's published about you that people can reasonably conclude is about you, and it's published to third parties and it causes you harm. And so in 2026, the game has changed quite a bit, right? And it's changed quite a bit because of AI and now Deepfakes, and the law is always catching up, and it's definitely not caught up. It's getting there. And so what is defamation today is certainly different than what it was even 10 years ago. And something that's really critical for you is context matters. So who is saying the statement and where it's published matters for purposes of what you can do about it. If somebody has sort of an imposter account and they're claiming to be Gia, right? And they're claiming to be you, and they're saying things that are not truthful because you never said them, there's definitely a defamation claim there, particularly if it's harming your reputation. There's probably also an identity theft claim or some other sort of impersonation claim there. And we're getting these cases now. You know, we're getting these cases where people want to divert from your attention and your publicity and monetize based on your sort of standing and goodwill and your follower count, if you will, and sell something bogus to people who are going to think they're talking to Gia. And
I think, you know, it's funny because I would say that this is actually the thing to do now. Because when I started back 15 years ago, when if you like somebody or you wanted to collaborate with somebody online, you would reach out like how I reach out to you. Hey, let's do a collaboration, you know, and then we got together face to face or we handled it professionally. Now, what I find is content creators don't even bother to reach out to the content creator. They will just take a clip that they've put out. They will take it, put it up, do a reaction to it, right? And maybe misconstrue the message. So how do you handle, is this considered defamation? Do you notice this a lot more happening?
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite topics because it's controversial and there's not a clean answer. And like many things in law, the answer is the most famous answer. You know what I'm going to say? What are the magic words? It depends. And here's why it depends, right? If you are allowed to clip somebody's podcast, somebody's Instagram post and criticize it, okay, and comment on it. The rules of the game haven't changed in that sense, you know, so long as, and here's where it really matters. You are not putting a false spin on what was said. So to your point about taking things out of context, and context is king. In 2026, context is king because snippets, commentary, criticism, that's the game right now, right? That's what's getting eyeballs. And that may be okay to do, but what you shouldn't do and what people are getting in trouble for and what I'm getting calls about is when people take it and then they completely misconstrue or even in some cases lie about what was said, the wrong context, and completely fabricate and make up some narrative, right? And that is obviously not okay. But it is
where's
okay
that
to say,
line? Well, I mean, where's that line between opinion, criticism, and defamation?
Yeah, well, if you react to something someone said and give your opinion about what they said, that's okay. If you're criticizing something someone said, like I love using real examples. So I'm going to use Candace Owens because I know this is very controversial.
Oh yeah. Okay. There we go.
Let's go there. So Candace has a lot to say about a lot of things politically. And you know what? She would be entitled to give her political opinion about the Macrons. Political opinion. She could say, you know where I'm going. She could take a speech by the Macrons, by Bridget Macron, and say, she's crazy, she's stupid, she's
a man.
She's unqualified. Well, we're going to get there. She's unqualified. And I don't support her in opinion speech, right? Drawing from her professional or, you know, from her journalistic sort of experiences in criticizing someone and using snippets of what Bridget Macron has actually said. You could do that. You could do that to Gia. You could do that about me. No problem. Where you cross the line is when you now make false statements of fact, things that can be proven or disproven, like calling Bridget a man or saying, you know, Bridget is the product of or is engaging in incest. Or and by the way, the statements have graduated now. Okay, whether you love Candace or not, it doesn't matter. We got to look at a principled approach of the law here, and the law doesn't change for people. Okay, my belief is you apply it as a principled approach. She has literally said that Bridget Macron is part of a groomer ring and is tied to journalistic assassinations. So what started as a man has now grown grossly. So when you ask me, Race, aren't these statements of opinion? Those are absolutely not statements of opinion. Now, I'm gonna give Candace Owens' defense a little help here. If Candace had a document and
that
she
showed
said,
a penis,
that
showed a penis, right?
That showed a penis, or she said, hey, let's bring Epstein files now. We got 3 million documents that just got dumped now. Okay, so this is happening. This is very practical for listeners now as we see who's tied into the Epstein ring, so to speak. If she pulled something and says, look, here's Bridget Macron's email address, and she's corresponding with Jeffrey Epstein, and I believe that this is sufficient evidence to say that she is part of a pedophilia ring. Okay, now we have some traction because she's giving an opinion on disclosed facts. She's telling the viewers the basis of her belief.
Yeah.
That's
Like
not
how
what's
she came
happening.
to that conclusion, though.
No.
It's like how she came to the idea is she connected the dots. Here's this exchange with Epstein. Epstein is known for this. It's safe to assume that maybe Bridget McCrone might be affiliated with this thing going on here with Epstein.
Except that's not how it happened. We all know.
No. For real life, that's not how it happened at all. We know that.
And Bridget McCrone's being sued for defamation by Candace Owens is being sued for defamation by Bridget McCrone.
Yeah.
And Candace is going to have a hard time justifying the statements she made with the absence of facts to substantiate them. Okay, you can't just say someone's part of a groomer ring to your question about what's fact and what's opinion, unless you give the disclosure of the basis of it. Okay, now to take a rudimentary example, if I said, you know what, I think Glenn is sexist.
I am.
Okay. That's an opinion, but that's an opinion because I'm basing it off of perhaps hundreds of hours of YouTube content, for example. And I'm allowed to make that criticism of you, or I'm allowed to say, you know what, Gia, I really don't like the stuff that you said on that interview that you just had that you published, and I don't like it for the following reason. Now, classic trolling, no problem to a degree. But the key, the hallmark of defamation is falsity, and it's based on a purported statement of fact, alleging that it's a fact, and saying, I know it's is true, and this is why it's true, and it's 100% black and white false. There's no basis for it. And I'll go a step further. Public figures, right? Public figures, for people who don't know, there's really two types of public figures. Category one is like celebrities, political figures, the highest echelon. Household name, but even if not a household name, somebody that's in the public facing light for a significant part of their work that they do, they're public figures. There's a second step called limited purpose public figure, and that's people like, you know, people who may occupy a dominant role in a particular niche. So maybe they're not a household name, but let's say within a national association of medical doctors, this person is the president and they're highly well-spoken on COVID vaccines. And therefore in that niche, they've become a limited purpose public figure, okay? If you are a public figure and you are filing a lawsuit against someone, instead of negligence, the standard jumps higher. You have to prove malice and falsity.
And damages, right?
And damages. But this is really, really important because if somebody were to say, okay, Gia, well, I think you're a limited purpose public figure, and so I'm going to take a little bit of a step further and I'm going to criticize you and I'm going to say something that may be defamatory, okay? But the fact that you're a public figure and you're suing for that means you have to show that what that person said, they had knowledge that it was wrong. And so what Candace, you know, what the defense is saying is that they had no reason to believe, Candace had no reason to believe that Bridget McCrone was actually a woman. You know, she had no reason to believe that any of these statements were false. And you're laughing because, you know, Bridget McCrone's lawyers came and say, yes, you did, because we sent you a demand letter when you first started your spiel, and we outlined why these statements are false. We gave you photographs of her as a child, as a female. And one of the statements that Candace made was that she is this person who we now know to be Bridget's brother. So Candace was like, you're this guy, look, I got the picture of you. And they were like, no, dude, that's my brother. That's not me. So in that example, the argument is, hey, even though you were allowed a lot of leeway to say a lot of things about a public figure, Bridget McCrone, you were in possession of statements that demonstrate that you knew these statements were false, actual malice. That's an example of that. So this kind of thing will absolutely make a difference in 2026. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have won several lawsuits regarding people using my image improperly, making money off of my image improperly. I'm still present day in several litigations, and it will continue this way, right? Because once your image is out there, you'll be dead in the grave and they'll still be using your image. But I think it's getting trickier. And what I see in the next 5-10 years going forward, crystal ball effect, I think that this is really going to set precedents, because now I think it's easier to go after somebody using your image, the defamation, versus what we have current day. Now we have these pages who have no photo, have no names. They create all these burner accounts. They incite harassment online. They actually will rip your copyright, which is now not even your image. It's actually things that you've written. So plagiarism comes into play here. And then they're using deepfakes to say and copy your copyright. So now where do we head? How do you even fight this? Where are we going?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is part of this. The law is not even prepared to address, because we have to sort of mold the different tools that we have to address these things. So immediately my brain goes to, is there a defamation claim here? And there might be reputational harm. Like we use the example of somebody impersonating you, claiming that you're saying some things that are absolutely derogatory, and as a result, people don't like Gia as much. You lose followers. There could be a defamation claim. But the copying of your original content is certainly a copyright claim. Now, for copyright law, and I'm going to give, without going into like the complexity and nuances, generally speaking, before you can sue for copyright infringement, you have to have a registered copyright. But you could do a DMCA takedown of your original content, so long as it's your original content. And nowadays we see an abuse of that, where everything gets reported as DMCA. Right. And so the flip side is also true, Gia. Like if you are criticizing somebody and you're using a video clip and you're commenting on it, that's legit. You're allowed to do that. It's non-defamatory. But what people will do that are featured in that clip is they'll report it to Instagram or TikTok or YouTube and say, that's copyright infringement. Here's a DMCA note. And people send DMCAs like it's candy in Halloween. They're just throwing them out. What people don't understand is you sign a statement under oath. It's section 512F is that statement under oath that you have a legitimate bona fide basis to make the copyright claim. And courts have now construed that to mean you've considered whether it's a fair use. So if you know, dude, this is Gia commenting on it, she's allowed to do commentary. Okay. The copyright law doesn't care about defamation. Copyright cares about original works of authorship that are being infringed. They're being copied. You know that that's a baseless DMCA. That person who did that DMCA now has potential for being exposed. They have liability. And
so I get where you're coming from, but this is what they do, right? They'll maybe take something of yours. They'll change a few words to it. Right? So technically it doesn't fall within the legal boundaries, right? They're finding loopholes is what I'm saying. And this is why, like, I have the copyright, I have everything done, and I've dealt with this back and forth. But what they do is they change one little thing, or they'll use AI to kind of change a figure on an image, like maybe it's my nose is not exactly identical. And this is how they're getting away with it. They're finding the loophole within it. Yeah. And then now you got AI, which is crazy because AI will pull up even rumors and tabloids. So you got people online going, did Gia do this, right? And AI will be like, well, there's alleged tabloid or rumors that she did this, but there's no way to make it credible. And I'm like, so then they use that as, look, see, it's true. No, it's not true. So I like the tie-in to the reputational harm. Like when you're saying they say I did these things, because we distinguish that from the copyright, like using your content. Both are good avenues, right? The copyright stuff is generally easy, but you're right. People are gaming the system to change it just enough. And that's when you look at, let's say it becomes, it's not their original work, but by the way, it's still a derivative, infringing derivative. Correct. So you still have that argument. But let's say they fool the AI tools that are analyzing whether this is a copyright infringement or not. Let's say they jump through that. What is Gia going to do next? Well, what you're going to do next is you're going to consider the potential for reputational harm and whether there's falsity. Now, you talked about changing words. And I see this a lot. You'll give a quote, you give a statement, and somebody misquotes you on purpose. And they put it in quotes. And they make you say something you didn't say. That's a different ball game. Now,
Now, this is where I have more tools in the chest to help you address that, right? And it's because of the fact that there's falsity to it.
And do you, okay, so I have through the years, it's been over a decade, I have been told by other attorneys, okay, don't make public statements. So I want to know where you stand on public statements, because I'm a firm believer that I'm not going to, first of all, explain myself or bow to the mob or deal with these haters. If they want to say what they want to say, they can shout into the void. How do you feel as an entertainment attorney? How do you address this? Do you take it publicly or do you ignore it? What's the best way to handle it?
Yeah, there's no clean-cut answer on when you should speak about something, but I always tell people, before you react, call me, for God's sake, because in an attempt to clean up your own reputation and react to something, you could dig yourself into a bigger hole and potentially even subject yourself to a defamation claim.
Correct.
So my rule of thumb is, if you're my client, for God's sakes, call me. And if you're not my client, fill out my intake form, get in touch with me, DM me, see if we can sign up, how quickly we can do it. And let's get some advice, because context matters. So
because what they do is they take, like, let's say you do a public statement, then they just use that public statement and go, see, I told you I was right. And then they twist it again and they create another whole wave.
Yeah. Like, and what should someone start doing? Like, what evidence should people start collecting the moment they realize that they are being defamed? Like, let's say somebody is lying on their name, or like the misrepresenting them, right? And making claims that are false, you know, and you could prove that they're false. Like, what do you need to start doing and collecting so that you actually build a solid case where it's not just one time, that you got multiple instances of this individual slandering or defaming you?
Yeah, well, the multiple instances campaign, those cases trouble me, because it's probably your competitor or somebody that really has a bone to pick. We'll talk about that. A
smear campaign, right?
A smear campaign. And many times it's anonymous, but there's rarely is anonymity a true thing anymore. And we'll come back to that. But to your point, this is exact. Let me give you a quick guide for what you should do if somebody's defaming you on social media, right? Or anywhere online. The first thing you should do is you should absolutely preserve that content. So preservation could mean, if it's a post, take a screenshot and make sure you get the URL if you can, the location, and capture it clean. An even better thing would be to download the video or screen record the video. It's also helpful to capture the comments, because comment section may tell you something about the amount of reputational harm that's to come, how many likes. Comment section may also reveal something about the person who posted it in the event of an anonymous post. So number one thing you do is you preserve, you save that, right? Second thing you do is you don't react to it right away. You don't. And there's so many reasons for it. Number one, call a lawyer first. So preserve, call a lawyer. Third, ask the lawyer, how do I react? Do I react? What should I say? And the reason you do that is because of something called the Streisand effect. And Streisand effect, people have come to know it now, but in short, it's creating an echo chamber where you continue to say the thing that you don't want people to know about. Right?
Yeah, you can start talking about the very thing that you're trying to, like,
to have removed or taken down. And here's the thing: there may be statements that are truthful that you don't want out there, and that's what you need a lawyer's advice for. It's like, what's my exposure if I say that this is false when borderline it could be true?
Because they're most of these people are doing it to incite that attention onto their page so they can get your followers. So it's this whole game. It's really a game for them.
It is.
Well, like, here's a perfect example, right? Like, and this is from one of the viewers, right? They asked, like, or I'm assuming they've already touched on the Trump suing Noah for defamation. Like, how does that fall in?
How does what fall in? The question?
Like the Trump suing Noah for defamation?
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to say about Donald Trump, right? By the way, I think he threatened to sue. Trevor Noah said something at the Grammys, which was a comment. I don't even know. Maybe somebody can put in the comments, or we can pull it up.
Something about like who had a bigger butt, him or Nicki Minaj.
Yeah. Look, that is obviously a joke. Like that's clearly, you know, that's clearly hyperbole and it's a joke and it's satire and all that stuff.
But there was much more that was said, but I'm just going off. That was my favorite line.
You know, my understanding is there was a statement that, you know, Trump was at the island, was on Epstein Island.
That's right. That was assumed or alleged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the threat that I'm hearing that Donald Trump made that he says is false and defamatory is that he was on Epstein's island. And somebody can pull the exact quote because the quote, as it turns out, matters. Now, here's my take on this, okay? The way a court would look at this is they're going to consider the context. Is Trevor Noah acting as a news reporter and a source of news and a source of factual information when he's on a microphone at the Grammys cracking jokes? That's a consideration, right? Versus if the statement was made on CNN. They're two different things. Context matters. The fact that this was Trevor Noah, who's making jokes about everybody and all kinds of things at the Grammys, matters because it's less likely to have reputational harm.
Yeah.
It's less likely to be interpreted as truthful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that that's a slam dunk defense. But the other thing that people are going to be looking at is what? They're going to be looking at the Epstein records, 3 million records, to see where Trump comes up in there, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, the facts matter, and if Donald Trump has any association with Epstein and the island, then we all know what the result of this lawsuit's going to be.
Has there been any new laws passed regarding AI and deepfakes and plagiarism and all of this? Has there, since the internet, has there anything been created to protect people on this?
Yeah, so not enough. States and Congress at the federal level have not done enough. But there was something passed recently, the Take It Down Act, which is supposed to help address non-consensual deepfake or intimate visual images, right? Now, these laws tend to have two problems. One, the definition of how we qualify what's depicted and nudity, right? So I may be offended if somebody takes my face and puts it on a nude image, a pornographic image. This happened to Taylor Swift, remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? And so while it's happened to a lot of people because Taylor Swift's a celebrity, Congress finally paid attention, which is kind of funny. But there is some recourse. It could be criminal. It could be criminal. It could be criminal if it's actually your intimate photo. That's what that distinguished from putting your face on a picture that's not you, that is pornographic. Okay. But if this happens to you, where somebody takes, in the example that I think you made,
so they've
Gia,
stolen something that was not supposed to be public. They stole something from you and used it publicly, and then used it to profit off of you. This is criminal.
Yeah, put aside the act of trying to profit, publishing somebody's intimate photographs is criminal.
Okay.
At the state level, at the federal level, it's right. It's revenge porn, as the name.
So,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
I have that Trump clip that from Trevor here queued up. All right, here we go.
Almost as much as Trump wants Greenland, which makes sense. I mean, because Epstein's island is gone, he needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton. So
that was the soundbite.
I mean, look.
I mean,
I don't think that's
not bad. It's not. I mean, it's a joke.
I don't think that statement is going to qualify as defamation for a couple different reasons. Okay. Somebody could tell me, maybe you guys know the answer to this question. Have there been pictures of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein together?
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen any. I know. I definitely know there's been pictures of Trump and Bill Clinton together.
I've seen 2 images of them together. Mm-hmm.
There's video. Okay, put aside the island comment for a second. Put a second the island.
Well, we know that there've been pictures in Mar-a-Lago because Epstein used to live out there.
Well, there's the video of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein at a dance, and there's all these girls. It was from
yeah.
There's video.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the point I'm getting at. Even if this is how, by the way, this is why it's complicated, because defamation law doesn't work on literal words and what we call splitting hairs, right? It looks at the gist and the context. And so Trevor Noah's remark,
Funny.
he's cracking a joke, but it's the basis of the joke is that people are slinging statements saying that Trump has been to the island, that he's some affiliation with Epstein. And even if the statement of him, Donald Trump, going to the island is false, even if that's totally false, where Noah has cover is he's at the Grammys cracking jokes. And there is at least some loose affiliation, even if it has nothing to do with, trafficking young girls. They've been affiliated. They've been seen together.
Yeah.
That's where he's going to get the hall pass to make this joke. In my humble opinion, people could differ, but as a defamation lawyer and having done this for 16 years, I think that's the hall pass.
I think it was a funny joke.
I mean, look, this document dump of 3 million files. I mean, you're seeing the names. America is going to be a very, very different place now. At least we're going to be looked at very differently. The type of celebrities. And, people years ago were sort of written off as being tinfoil hat. Like, oh, how can you say that this guy was doing this with so-and-so? And the documents came out and people shit themselves.
Yeah. So, okay, if somebody's hiding behind like a fake profile or like a burner account, right? What legal tools actually exist to identify them? How can you get somebody that's like using like a fake account that's attacking you? What can you do legally to try to protect you from them defaming you?
Yeah, let's use an example of somebody created an Instagram account. I'm using Instagram on purpose. So somebody's created a fake Instagram profile, and fake or real, and they're anonymous. You can't figure out who they are, and they're publishing statements that are false. Now, the black and white designation of the statements being false matters, and here's why. The First Amendment protects anonymous speech online, but it's not unfettered opportunity to say anything you want. If it's false and defamatory, it gets checked. So if you call me, the first thing I would do is we would use litigation. Well, first, before we go to litigation, we tried to see if there's some way using intel to triangulate who this person is. So depending on how popular the account is, who the followers are, the commentators are, trying to narrow it. If we can't do that, and it's impossible, we then go to litigation. We file a lawsuit, a John Doe or Jane Doe lawsuit. So it would be Glenn versus John Doe. We cite the defamatory posts. We make sure that it's a basis is defamation, and we file the lawsuit and we issue subpoenas to Instagram. Now, Instagram is owned by Meta. Meta's lawyers would come through and basically fight with us a little bit and say, Rais, the anonymity is protected for the following reasons. 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're looking at your subpoena. Give me a call. We'll work it out. And at that point, if I have a good defamation case, Meta will absolutely produce the data behind who's registered that account. Your problem is going to be how many steps has this person taken to mask, their ownership of the account, right?
Like
And
a fake
also-
Gmail account or something like that. Like they
And
set
Is
it
there
up.
2FA verification? Is there verification of burner phone, the email address
Correct.
that's used, the IP address?
Also, like I had to personally, because a lot of these people were outside of the US. So then I had to hire my attorney, which my attorney had to contact an attorney over there, which then had to locate the burner accounts like through that, like the whole system over there, which is why it can be lengthy, very, very expensive, and almost impossible, because once you get to that one person, you can take down their profile or remove their footprints, but then somebody else will pick that material up and start it over again, especially when you deal with the dark net.
Oh, dark net is a whole different animal. I mean, if you have content about you on the dark net, good luck, because the sophistication with which that stuff is published and masked is the next level. But for the average person, it's usually a jilted lover, or it's somebody who's obsessed with you, or it's an ex-business partner, or it's a competitor. And in those 4 categories, we've dealt with all of them. We have a pretty high success rate at uncovering who it is. And you were right though, Gia, it's a game of whack-a-mole because that account goes down and another one comes up. And unless you're in litigation or, you know, you have the wherewithal to eventually sue, that person may continue to do it. And in some instances, the people will get exhausted as these accounts start getting taken down. But the best thing to do, if it's bad enough, is to litigate, is to file a lawsuit, find out who's behind it, and teach them a lesson.
Here's a problem that I ran into a lot of these people is that most of them are deadbeats in their mom's basement, you know,
Yeah.
on the keyboard. So there's really nothing for you to litigate. There's nothing for you to take. They don't have anything to give. Like there's no repercussions and consequences here. So that's another issue.
Yep. So you definitely have to choose your battles. And I have to give this lecture to people every single day where I say, look, I'm not going to be the type of lawyer that's going to say, yeah, give me a gigantic deposit. Let's go file a lawsuit. If your objective is not damages, right? If your objective is damages, then we have to do the cost benefit analysis of how much you're going to burn. But some people say, I want to know who's doing this, or at least try. And once I get to that point, I don't necessarily care to have a full-blown lawsuit and keep going with them, right? And we could do that. We could do that pretty efficiently, or at least tell you if it's worth pursuing. So I recommend people at least think about that part. But yeah, I've had a case, a revenge porn case, where it was an OnlyFans creator, and she was, you know, somebody kept taking her content, republishing it, and it's behind a paywall, so it's not intended to be disseminated widely. And it turns out to be this college dude in whatever state he was in, Georgia or whatever. And he did end up paying damages. You know, he paid the attorney's fees for the cost of the litigation. But for her, it was more important to enforce, because remember, it was all over these forums, like on Reddit, that, oh, so-and-so's pictures are leaked. So we had to do damage control, and filing a lawsuit and saying we got to a conclusion sometimes is that damage control, because people, it has a chilling effect. People then, oh, Gia's gonna sue and you might get found out. So maybe this is not a good idea.
Well, it's crazy because I've had to hire different people for different things, but I have this one company that does the AI detection, and that's taken like in 1 month they took down over 1,000 impersonation pages, right?
Wow.
So like this is just per month, you know. So it's crazy because when I start hearing about these cases, I found out that these people that were pretending to be me were getting plane tickets, you know, bank accounts, allowances. So
Yeah.
the real content creators are actually out there putting out real content, working harder, not making any money. Really, I mean, there's no money to be made in truth. You know how that goes. And so we're over here doing the real blunt of the work. And the people who are stealing your name and your faces are making the real money pretending to be you. And it's just really frustrating.
I've had professionals at every level get impersonated, including other lawyers. And so you can imagine, right? These are imposters who are.
You had this problem too with you, right?
I had this problem. I had this problem. I've had a lot of problems actually for what I do. I'm an easy target, right? But you know,
that's why
look,
I said truth doesn't make money. They come as soon as you start talking truth, they come after you. That's what it is.
yeah, they come after you, or you represent a good cause, you know, and you represent a client who's controversial, but has done the right thing, or you defend somebody who is doing the right thing. I have people who, the most heartbreaking cases are parents who get sued, or women who get sued, or men who get sued for exposing something that happened to them that is absolutely abhorrent. Like a terrible person did something terrible. This person comes out as a victim publicly, and then they get sued for defamation for it. And we have anti-SLAPP laws to protect against these baseless defamation lawsuits that are designed to chill free speech and bringing these things of concern to public light. But doesn't mean you're not going to get sued. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have to spend attorney's fees now to defend yourself, right? And so unfortunately, this is the reality we're in. And the biggest lesson, I think, personally, for creators in 2026, one of the biggest lessons is you have to police your brand. You have
absolutely.
You created it. You're putting time and resources behind it. You have to police it. And so, you know, a lawyer that works in the space is your best friend, because you need someone to call. You need to know, you need to have good judgment as to how to address it, or whether to just say, I don't care, this is a nobody and I'm not worried about it. I think the old moniker of no, what is it? Bad publicity is still good publicity. I don't know that that's true anymore.
Yeah, I've never agreed with that. I've been hearing that for over a decade, and I've always argued with it because I don't agree with it. I don't think bad publicity is good for you, especially when you're putting out a good message for truth and it's being flipped on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we lost you again, Glenn.
Oh, sorry. I definitely don't agree with that. I think bad publicity is bad publicity. And see, people get away with spreading lies or falsifying things to taint your image or your reputation. And it's like, well, the damage is already done. How do you are able to like quantify damages in this sense? It's like, how can you put a dollar amount on potential earnings that you may have had, but now you're not going to receive based off of the lies that this person like spews? Like, how do creators, like, how do YouTube creators deal with that? Like, if they were gaining X amount of dollars revenue through their super chats on their channel before, but then now this lie comes out, or this falsified information comes out that's twisted, and now their viewership drops, or like their support drops from that channel. How are they able to repeat or recover damages in that instance?
Yeah, so proving damages on internet defamation still remains a challenge. And a good example of that is when we look at people who are famous and are public figures, like the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni defamation lawsuit, where Blake Lively says, I've been harmed $160 million. And Justin Baldoni says counterclaim for several hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And typically because there's contracts that are lost, there's text messages from producers who might say they're not willing to work with you anymore. You have to build an evidentiary basis. For everyday, day-to-day creators, that's hard. And you have to be able to not only show, and by the way, this is assuming that this is a case where you have to prove damages because you're suing to recover damages. You may not be suing to recover damages, or it may be a case where it's what we call defamation per se, where you don't have to prove damages to win your case. But if you're going to ask a jury for a lot of money, or ask the other side to pay a lot of money, you got to have what you're asking for. So we look at metrics. So we may hire outside consultants to say, what is Gia's reputation worth? What is Glenn's reputation worth? Let's look at what they've done. Let's look at the portfolio of work. Let's look at who's associated with them. Let's look at not only how much they've earned, but how much were they making for other people in collaborations? Do they do licensing, right? So we can build a sort of a case for how much your reputation is worth. And then we look at the diminishing value of that. Was there a sharp fall off of people calling for consultations? Was there a sharp fall off for people who are interested in working with you? The easiest case is you lose a contract. If you are slated to do a deal with Netflix, Gia, and somebody says, we read this Reddit forum where there's all this salacious stuff about you, and we no longer want to do this Netflix special, and we're pulling our contract. That is a lot easier to value than losing followers, your page crashing, etc.
Correct. Likes and followers are hard, but like I know in my past, I would have to provide paid stubs. I'd have to show how much my jobs were worth per hour. So all these things, you accumulate a case. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, and look, this is one of the reasons why you have to police your reputation, right? You have to look at what corners of the world are talking. All four corners of the world are talking about you, and who's associated some allegation about you that you then have to address. It may not be harmful to your reputation today, but it could come back tomorrow or a year from now.
That's why I said there's no such thing as free speech. We're not living in a free country. There's always consequences for everything you do. I know even though I hire people to handle certain things, I'm still, policing constantly, going through, fake links coming up and, people using my name on sites I'm not associated with. I'm constantly doing this. I mean, this is like a full-time job, and it never stops. It never goes away, because as soon as you take down 1,000 more pop up. It's just this kind of circular thing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the people who are most attacked are the people who have strong views and people who publicly are willing to take a position on something that others are not going to agree with. Controversy,
Exactly.
while it sells and gets eyeballs and views, it's also controversy is attacked naturally.
Exactly. So we kind of addressed those questions. Was there anything else, Glenn, that you wanted to get into? I know we went over how you went over how courts distinguish between the legitimate criticisms, right? Like how do courts determine what you are awarded from there? I know that you said that they'll go through a file of like what you make, and then you'll have to be able to prove that dip, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to be able to prove. You have to be able to prove, some sort of economic loss or create a value proposition for your name or brand that was tarnished. That's right. Yeah.
I want to get to like the real part of the conversation where we talk about the people.
Ask away.
Well, we may not be able to do this on YouTube. So, but before
Play the reaction.
we're gonna play the video first, and then we might just end up cutting it from YouTube because YouTube is gonna be mad at us. But here we go. Let's play this video first. All right, 1 second.
And who's not. I think a lot of influencers started their journey with good intentions, but once they got too big and became a threat to the people in power, they eventually received an offer they couldn't refuse. And it looks a little bit like this. We will promote you, you'll make a lot more money, you can still talk about whatever you want, just don't talk about and make sure you keep them divided. You're working for us now. And if you say no, then you'll end up like Charlie Kirk, or we'll go after what you love. So how do we know who's real and who's not? This is the rule. Over time, people always show you who they are. We just have to believe them. For example, if they endorse Trump right now, they're telling you that they're supporting genocide and Zionist supremacy. If they're still pushing one side of the fake political aisle, they're still misleading you into believing that both parties are not owned by the same people. Don't focus on what they say, focus on what they do. And we're not blind. We see influencers suddenly shifting views and avoiding certain topics. If they're not consistently giving the power back to the people and working to unify us, then I don't see how we can trust them.
Show. That question is really specified for Zionist. Okay, I said it. I said the word Zionist. All right. I'm not a Zionist. I don't think you could be a Christian and a Zionist at the same time. I think it's contradictory. You and I already went back and forth on that on Instagram. But if you guys want to watch the rest of this, you might have to come over and join the Patreon because that's where the rest of this is going. So I'm gonna go ahead. Should we just do that now, Gia? Should we just switch it over?
Let's do
All right,
it.
we're gonna switch it over to members only.
And I want to get into like some of the really deep stuff that happened online and to details with you. So let's do it offline.
All right, and I will. There we go. We do that.